I have some interesting news to share. Normally, when I look into jobs overseas, they want someone with a bachelor's degree, which I don't have. I have a 2 year associate's. However, a few days ago, I was looking at gaijinpot.com and found jobs that match my qualifications, mostly in the English teacher section. Now, this is great news for me because Japan is one of the two spots that I really want to go to live abroad for a few years, the other being Germany. Um, in all honesty, I want to live more in Japan than I do in Germany because that's a different culture. Uh, for those that don't know, I am mixed race Mexican, predominantly of European and Asian descent, but it's mostly Romani, Indian, and Chinese descent. Whereas in European, it would be Spanish, German, and Romani that are the main cultures that I've been raised as. The thing is that I've also noticed something very interesting as I noticed in other YouTube videos of teaching Japanese, it has a lot of grammatical consistencies with Spanish. As a kid, I struggled to learn English, which is ironic given that English I now speak better than I do Spanish, a lot better. But on learning with apps, Chinese and Japanese, I noticed that the fact that it has the same grammatical structure, I'm memorizing it a lot faster than I ever did English. And not just basic words like konnichiwa or ni hao, but even general predicates and sentences seem to be easier for me to grasp than it was when I was learning English, which is why I'm going to invest much more to go into Japan than Germany. Both have their pros and cons, but this may be my real opportunity to get closer to the Chinese side of the family. It's not I don't mean disrespect with to the Europeans in my family, but we were never close. When I was homeless, I never once received help from any family member that says, "Oh, I'm white. I'm white. I'm white. I'm superior because I'm white." These are also the Christian Bible thumpers that I generally have quite a bit of issue with, and how quick they are to piss on their own beliefs. Me going to Japan would be better for me mental health wise, as it's going to break away from the monotony of living in the United States. This country loves to say, "Oh, we're free, we're free, we're free." We're so much more better off than the other countries. Yet, are we really? We are piss poor when it comes to our health care. And we've fallen behind when it comes to educating our own children. Japan will break the monotony of that American standard that I have to be white when I don't identify as white. I identify as a European descendant. I identify as an Asian descendant. But in my heart, I will always be tribal Mexican. And Americans always seem to want to take that away. In Japan, I feel that at least people will keep their opinions to themselves. The concept of hone, at least I think that's what hone means, is to have an outside mask so as not to be an inconvenience to those around themselves. In other words, they keep their shit to themselves. If they don't like me, at least they won't be rude about it. And quite frankly, I like the idea of a new adventure in a place that's completely different from what I was raised. The only country I've ever been outside of the United States is Mexico. I love Mexico, but like the United States, I don't like its politics. Like the United States, women are not safe to walk the streets. And before I get shit posted, let's be clear. Human trafficking doesn't just take place in third world countries. It takes place even in places like New York City and Las Vegas. So before you want to post your hate comments and that I'm being anti American, move on. This ain't the channel for you. For those that support me and are encouraging me to take that step, I'm going to do all in my power to research these companies. Because it seems finally, after, let's see, I graduated in college 2006. 2016 would be 10 years. 16 years as of recording this video, where my higher education was basically worthless. At least in Japan, I think I can do pretty well. I'm understanding the verbal constructs of their sentences very well because, again, if you speak Spanish, Chinese and Japanese have those structures. And it's going to be, I think if I would have learned when I was younger those languages first before English, I bet I could have been living in one of those countries. The only reason why China is now off the table is because a lot of family members of Chinese descent who live in Mexico and the United States have warned me not to go because the United States and China and so many other countries have that wonderful little I'm exceptional mentality. I'm exceptional from everyone. I'm exceptional even by compared to the neighbor across the street. If this is your mentality, you're not exceptional. You're basically on the bandwagon. You're basically in that mold, that proverbial mold that I myself want to break out of. I am painfully aware that people will judge me in Japan. They'll think I'm scary. They'll think I'm someone not worth their time. But is that really any different than how I'm treated here? I would love to hear that any counter argument someone would have that is not Bible thumping or flag waving. I've got it through my head that a flag is still just a piece of cotton. The only difference between that and the shirt I wear is just the symbolic representation, which I understand why people gravitate to. But that's not me. I am of mixed race, of mixed descent. My ancestry, so far of what I've tracked down, goes at least to the 1600s. There are so many stories in that short amount of time because really 400 years in the grand scheme of things is not even a blip in the radar compared to how long the universe has been here. I'm well aware of my speech impediments, but the more I speak, the better I'm getting at it. Yes, I am painfully aware that I am an introvert, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to jump into something that is not only life changing, but just something to say I was here. Whether I affect people's lives for good or for ill, well, no one can ever be sure of that. But I want to try. I honestly want to try. And maybe I can make a better connection with people. My T my PTSD is a hindrance. I'm 38 and I'm still not able to drive because of it. Maybe going somewhere else for a few years, like I did when I went to Mexico for a few weeks, maybe that's the kick in the ass I need to get over it. Because if I can do something that in many ways is terrifying for a first timer who has never really left the United States for more than a month and a half, let's try a few years. I want to do it at least 3 years. And honestly, I think I can make it. There is so much that I've noticed with East Asiatic cultures that Mexican culture has that the United States lacks. That's why I'm gravitating more and more toward my Romani lineage and my Chinese lineage than I am my German lineage. Because all three are very outspoken, but the first two have this, we'll call it consideration. What I've noticed is that the German side of my family, like so many Americans here, be they in law or random stranger, they really can't put themselves in another person's shoes. And the older I get, the more I notice the United States has a very big problem with a little thing called empathy. And I think looking white could come as quite an advantage. Because for some reason, I'm always able to click with people who are curious. It always starts out small and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now imagine the stories I'll have, and I already have so much to tell. Imagine how many stories a person can have getting out of their comfort zone and living in another country. I want that adventure. It would be interesting to see a viewer's input, and I look forward to it. Talk to you later.